The Senate will come to order. Senator Murphy,
Mr. President, I impose the call of the Senate.
the Senate is now under call. Senator Murphy,
Mr. President, I move that further proceedings under the roll call be dispensed with and the Sergeant at Arms be instructed to bring in the absent members.
on that motion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Members, will you kindly stand? In our Senate tradition, we start with prayer, and today's chaplain is Deacon Kevin Connealy of the Archdiocese of St. Paul and Minneapolis, who serves as legislative chaplain for the Minnesota Catholic Conference. And following the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Peace be with you. It's an honor to pray with and for you all today. O giver of creation, O Lord, keeper of covenants, O God who has spoken through your many and varied prophets, O Lord of sacrificial and redeeming love, our true source of truth, beauty, and goodness. In every age, land, faith, tradition, and tongue, you have guided us in the way of peace. When we say shalom, when we say as-salam yulaykum, when we say la paz sea contigo, when we say peace be with you, we begin those encounters and invoke for each other a divine peace. Lord, may these elected servants encounter each other today and every day, beginning in peace. A tongue sharpened for verbal battle and a war of words is not going to promote or sow lasting peace. Instead, put on their tongues and in their hearts that very spirit of peace be with you. Then, for the common good, may they be diligent in pursuing peace and vigilant in protecting it. As these men and women gather in service to all the people of Minnesota, may they be mindful that true peace, lasting peace, is not born of power overcoming weakness, or of might making right, or of temporary advantage. Teach us, Lord, that the peace that endures must be both an unarmed peace and a disarming peace. And so, God of peace, watch over these senators in their work today, this week, this session. Guide them toward making this Capitol a house of peace. In every encounter, may they diffuse hostility through dialogue. And may your divine peace, that unarmed and disarming peace, be promoted, protected, and praised. Go in peace. Amen.
Thank you, members. The secretary will take the roll.
Abler, Barr, Bolden, Carlson, Champion, Clark, Coleman, Swadzinski, Dames, Dibble, Dornick, Draheim, Drazkowski, Duckworth, Farnsworth, Fateh, Frentz, Green, Grunhagen, Gustafson, Hochschild, Herr, Heinzman, Hemmingson Yeager, Hoffman, Holmstrom, Housley, Howe, Jasinski, Johnson, Johnson Stewart, Klein, Karan, Kroon, Kunish, Kupec, Lang, Latz, Liskey, Limmer, Lucero, Mann, Marty, Matthews, May Quaid, McEwen, Miller, Mohammed, Murphy, Nelson, Umu Verbaten, Pappas, Pa, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rasmussen, Rest, Seeberger, Utke, Weber, Wiesenberg, Westland, Westrom, Wickland, Zhang.
Members, a quorum is present. The following members intend to vote from a remote location pursuant to or under Rule 40.7. Senators Carlson, Heinzman, Lucero, Port, and Senator Utke. Members, if you'd like to follow along, I'm reading from today's Senate agenda dated Thursday, April 16th, 2026. We will begin at the fifth order of business, reports of committee. Senator Murphy for a motion to adopt the committee reports.
Mr. President, I move the committee reports printed in the agenda and the addendum be adopted with the exception of the reports pertaining to Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 6.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Members, we will now proceed to the eighth order of business, which is introduction and first reading of Senate bills. The bills listed on today's introduction calendar are given their first reading and referred as indicated, and there are no changes. Members, we are now going to the ninth order of business. The secretary will read the motions.
Senator Kunish moves that her name be stricken as chief author and the name of Senator Marty be added as chief author to Senate File Number 2255.
We will adopt the author's motions as one motion. All in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. I'll now call on Senator Pratt for a motion. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move Senate File 4125 be withdrawn from the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety and re-referred to the Committee on Capital Investment. I've spoken with both chairs and they agree.
Thank you, Senator Pratt. Senator Pratt moves that Senate File Number 4125 be withdrawn from the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety and re-referred to the Committee on Capital Investments. All in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Members, I want to, if I can get your attention. Members, I want to go over a couple of issues simply because we're going to be spending more time with each other on the floor, and the front desk and I thought it would be a great time for us to provide some reminders. Just so that you know that when it comes to roll call votes, Senate Rule 40.2 provides that members may vote on a question or be counted on a division only at the member's own seat in the Senate chambers. Sometimes what's happening during roll call votes, members are going to each other's desks, and that is in violation of our rule. Secondly, Senate Rule 40.6 provides that a member or other persons may not proceed to or remain by the secretary's desk while a roll call or division is being taken. For an example, we have seen a number of members while we are doing roll call votes up talking to the front desk staff, and we ask that you not do that. So just remember to vote only from your desk and not to approach the front desk during the roll call vote. Members should remain at their desk during the roll call vote and refrain from approaching another member's desk during the vote. If you wish to vote at your desk and then leave the chambers, Senate customs and usage have permitted that practice. Last but certainly not least, today I am grateful that you are not as loud as we've been experiencing as of late. As you know, that debate is an important component of our work. I want members to hear the various arguments or points to be considered, and to do so requires an ability to hear. So if you wish to talk in the chambers, please keep your voices low or take the conversation off the Senate floor. Those are just gentle reminders because we're getting into that time during our legislative session where we're going to spend more time with each other on the floor, and I want us to just go forward with that level of consideration. With that being said, remaining under motions and resolutions, I'm going to call on Senator Murphy to designate special orders. Senator Murphy.
Thank you, President Champion, for those gentle and important reminders. Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bills be made special orders for immediate consideration.
Members, you will have your special orders list that's on your desk. That's dated April 16, 2026. We will begin with House File Number 3544, and that will be done by Senator Kupec. Senator Kupec.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have House File 3544. This bill modernizes MDVA's organizational structure, cleans up some outdated statutes, reclassifies the existing chief of staff position as a deputy commissioner of administration. That's not a new hire, but a title change that better reflects the roles and responsibilities and aligns MDVA with comparable state agencies. This bill preserves the requirements that the position be held by a Minnesota veteran. The bill also repeals 2 obsolete statutes, the Environmental Hazards Information Assistance Act, which has also been suspended for by decades of federal legislation, recognizing chemical agent exposure and data collection requirements on service-connected deaths that was never actionable due to the Department of Defense's data sharing restrictions. Finally, the bill aligns state veterans benefits eligibility with federal forfeiture determinations, ensuring that veterans who have lost federal benefits under U.S. Code 38 are similarly ineligible for state benefits, directing limited resources to those who retain their eligibility. That is the bill in a nutshell.
Members, we're on House File number 3544. Any discussion before we give the bill its third reading? Any discussion? Seeing none, the Secretary will give House File 3544 its third reading.
House File number 3544, a bill for an act relating to veterans, providing that certain veterans or former members of the armed forces who have forfeited federal benefits do not qualify for state-funded veterans benefits, etc.
Third reading. Any discussion before we vote for final passage of House File 3544? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on House File 3544. Members, remember, you're supposed to be at your own desk while we are voting. You're not supposed to be at another member's desk while we're voting. Senator Broden, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Senator Carlson votes aye.
And Senator Port votes aye.
And Senator Port votes aye. Senator Jasinski, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Heinzman votes aye.
Senator Heinzman votes aye.
Senator Lucero votes aye.
Senator Lucero votes aye.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Utke votes aye.
And Senator Utke votes aye. Members, we are waiting for one person to come to the chambers. This is a good time to remind you to please stay near the chambers because it slows up everything. Senator Pappas, we're in the middle of a vote.
Mr. President, in the middle of the vote, am I allowed to ask a question of information? Okay, I'll ask after the vote.
Thank you so very much. Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Curran votes aye.
Senator Curran votes aye. Members, just so you know that Senator Miller has asked to be excused. With that being said, all members having voted, who desires to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There have been 66 ayes and 0 nays. The bill is passed and its title agreed to. We will now go to House File 3467. Senator Gustafson.
Mr. President?
I'm sorry, wait, Senator Gustafson, because Senator Pappas did ask if she could ask a question. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually can't remember if it's in the rule or it was just custom and usage, but it seems to me we used to have motions that say, I move that those not voting be excused from voting, and that might, I'm just wondering what your opinion is on that and if that might move things along a little bit more.
Senator Pappas, thank you for that. There is a rule where that can occur, but what we've done as far as custom is we try to look to each side and just make sure that the member is interested in voting, and we have allowed for some pause, but that's the other reason why I'm asking members to stay near the floor, because it slows up the entire process. But we have a rule for that, but we try to be as accommodating as possible. Thank you, Senator Pappas, for that. Now, Senator Gustafson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. 3467 is straightforward. It costs nothing. It creates no new programs, and what it does is make clear in statute that the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs can direct agency staff and resources towards partnerships that are already serving veterans, organizations working on food insecurity, homelessness, and suicide prevention. That work is already happening today. These partnerships exist. Veterans are being served, but there is legal ambiguity about whether the commissioner has explicit authority to support that work. The ambiguity slows things down when speed matters most. This bill removes that ambiguity, nothing more. And I want to be direct about the moment we're in. We know that veteran services at the federal level have faced significant cuts and uncertainty, so programs that Minnesota veterans have relied on are being reduced and or eliminated, and this is the reality which we live in. So this means that the work of our state agency and its nonprofit partners has never mattered more. There is no fiscal note, no controversy. The House, the other body, passed it 133 to 0 because members on both sides of the aisle understand that caring for veterans who are struggling is not a political position. It's just a basic obligation. Minnesota veterans have earned our respect. They've earned more than that, and when they come home and they're asking for help with hunger, housing, and their mental health, the answer should come quickly and it should come clearly. That bill makes this possible. I ask for a green vote.
Any other discussion on House File 3467 before we give the bill its third reading? Seeing none, the Secretary will give House File 3467 its third reading.
House File Number 3467, a bill for an act relating to veterans, allowing the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs to direct agency resources to veterans initiatives.
Third reading. Any other discussion on House File 3467 before we vote? Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President, and all I'll say is, good bill, vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion before we vote? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on House File 3467. Senator Bolden, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Senator Carlson votes aye.
And Senator Port votes aye.
And Senator Port votes aye. Senator Rest and the others, we're asking that you're at your seat during the roll call vote. You're not supposed to be up talking to each other. I provided that gentle reminder earlier. Senator Jasinski, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Heinzman votes aye.
Senator Heisman votes aye.
Senator Lucero votes aye.
Senator Lucero votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
And Senator Utke votes aye.
And Senator Upke votes aye. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There have been 65 ayes and 0 nays. The bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, we'll now turn our attention to House File 3479. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this bill makes it clear that the right of a homeowner to postpone a mortgage foreclosure sale applies in 2 specific circumstances where there's been some legal ambiguity. It also clears up confusion regarding the length of a redemption period when a homeowner postpones a foreclosure sale and then files for bankruptcy. Finally, the bill makes clear that if the homeowner dies, the heirs have the right to postpone the sale and retain the home. Members, in 2009, to help owners save their homes from foreclosure, the Minnesota legislature passed a bill that granted the right of the mortgager to postpone a foreclosure date for 5 months after the originally scheduled sale date. This law helps homeowners keep their homes, and it avoids lenders having to take over properties because it gives more time to reinstate, make up the payments in arrears, rather than have to redeem, come up with the entire remaining balance in the mortgage. In 2025, the legislature clarified that the right of the mortgager in the 2009 law to postpone the foreclosure sale applies in judicial foreclosures as well as foreclosures of advertisement. So there are 3 instances covered by the 2025 legislation that require clarification. That the homeowner still has the right to postpone the sale if the lender has already postponed. The homeowner still has the right to postpone the sale in a new subsequent foreclosure. And where the homeowner has postponed the sale, then files bankruptcy, the shortened redemption period applies only to that foreclosure, and the statutory redemption period would apply in a new subsequent foreclosure. The bill is supported by legal aid, plus the Minnesota State Bar Association, the Minnesota Bankers Association, Minnesota Credit Union Network, Independent Bankers, the Minnesota Land Title Association, and Minnesota Realtors were all consulted on the bill, and there is no known opposition. I would appreciate your support.
Members, any other discussion on House File 3479 before we give the bill its 3rd reading? Seeing none, the Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 3479, a bill for an act relating to mortgage foreclosures, clarifying the right to postpone a mortgage sale.
Third reading. Any other discussion on House File 3479 before we go to final passage? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on final passage of House File Number 3479. Senator Bowden, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Senator Carlson votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
And Senator Putnam votes aye.
And Senator Putnam votes aye. Senator Jasinski, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Heinzman votes aye.
Senator Heinzman votes aye.
Senator Lucero votes aye.
Senator Lucero votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Utke votes aye.
And Senator Utke votes aye. All members having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 65 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, we are now go to Senate File Number 3637, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, Senate File 3637 should look familiar because last session we passed that people with permanent prescriptions for window tinting would not have to renew it every 2 years. And what we found was those folks that actually had an optometrist who could always, in the past, write the prescription. There was some confusion to whether an optometrist could actually write the prescription for the window tinting. So, members, this big bill, this controversial bill actually just clarifies that optometrist can write the prescription. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other discussion on Senate File Number 3637 before we go to third reading? Senator Dibble. Okay, anyone else before we go to third reading? Seeing none, the Secretary will give the bill, Senate File Number 3637, its third reading.
Senate File Number 3637, a bill for an act relating to transportation, clarifying that an optometrist may prescribe certain window glazing materials.
Third reading. Any other discussion on third reading? Now, Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just wanted to express my gratitude to Senator Howe for bringing this bill forward. This is a product of work that we did during the interim in response to an issue raised to my attention by Senator Wickland and one of her constituents. So it's, as Senator Howe represented, a simple clarification of the legislative intent when we passed this change the year prior. So appreciate your support and appreciate Senator Howe and Senator Wickland's work on this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Wickland.
Oh, I will just add, thank you, Mr. President. Just add that I appreciate Senator Howe bringing this forward. A constituent of mine, an optometrist, he brought this to me last summer that it was a concern he had that patients he had in the past been prescribing tints. Now he felt that the language was unclear and he would no longer be able to do that. So I appreciate the clarity that this bill brings. Thank you.
Any other discussion on Senate File Number 3637 before we have a final vote? Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would like to give some credit to Mr. Dave Sutherland and his family because he's the one that actually brought this thing to our attention, which actually clarifies that folks don't have, that with that permanent prescription, don't have to go through this and waste money and time in getting that done. So thank you.
The secretary will take the roll on Senate file number 3637. Senator Bowden, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Senator Carlson votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
And Senator Putnam votes aye.
And Senator Putnam votes aye. Senator Jasinski, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Heinzman votes aye.
Senator Heisman votes aye.
Senator Lucero votes aye.
Senator Jasinski, hold on one second. Members, there are two things I asked around volume, and people are still going to each other's desks talking. Senator Dibble and others, we are in a roll call, please. Senator Abler, thank you. Senator Jasinski, sorry for the interruption.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Lucero votes aye.
Senator Lucero votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Utke votes aye.
And Senator Upke votes aye. All senators having voted, let's see. Senator Hoffman, are you voting? All senators having voted who desires to vote? The secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, we'll now proceed to the 13th order of business. That is announcements of Senate interest. Senator Swazinski. While he's looking for his papers, without objection, the following senators will be excused from today's session. That would be Senator Miller. Now, Senator Swazinski, are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I don't know if I had the fortune yesterday or the misfortune to tell you what I'm about to tell you, but oftentimes we're surrounded by the unsung heroes in this business, and where the senators, we're often in the paper, but the people that surround us are not. And yesterday, I had time to reflect on the role that the sergeants play, and Minnesota State Patrol, and Capitol Security, and St. Paul Fire and Rescue, because what happened yesterday, I was coming down the stairs with a constituent, and she tumbled over the stairs and cracked her head open, about this much of a gash in her head. And I'm standing there like, oh my God, is she even alive still? And I ran up to the first security person I could find, and they immediately shut down whatever they were doing on their laptop and ran to my assistants, or her assistants, and before I could even blink, there were 3 other people there hovering over her, meeting her needs, asking all the professional questions that people that are in that trade know what to ask. And I'm sitting there, standing there in awe of the care and comfort that a constituent and also a friend of over 40 years received. I reached out to her family last night to make sure she's okay, and she is. And the family wanted to make sure that everybody knew that the family thanks you for what these people did for her yesterday. We often think these guys, these men and women, are here for the catastrophes of our jobs, the threats to public safety, and the potential for causing us harm, and the catastrophes of active shooters, and staff, and then the day-to-day staffing of the equipment. And yesterday I had again, I'm not sure if it was the fortune or misfortune, to see them firsthand step up and do one of the jobs that no one ever takes time to acknowledge, another reason they're here. So thank you, Mr. President, for indulging that. And again, thank you to all of you in this room right now that I'm speaking to.
Senator Jasinski for announcements of Senate interest.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's getting to that time again where the I-90 Highway 14 party is approaching. The date is the May 6th, which was 3 weeks from yesterday. Once again, it's at CHS Stadium. Special thanks to Greater Mankato Growth, who helped put this on, and the pork producers. It's an event that I think we should all attend. It's from 5 to 9 p.m. at CHS Stadium, again on May 6th. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Farnsworth, did I see something about the Rangers party?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I was going to wait till Monday, but I guess you can never hear too much about a good thing. April 27th from 5 to 8 at Mancini's. I once called it the best event, but then I got a dirty look from Senator Jasinski, so I'll say one of the best events, tied for the best event in the legislature. Everybody, Senate and staff are invited. Again, April 27th. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other announcements of Senate interest? Any other announcements of Senate interest? Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I wasn't tasked with this, but I hope we're all aware that this is one of the best days to be at the Minnesota Senate with the Cattlemen Association, the men and women who are providing beef for our state and for the country are out on the lawn, Capitol lawn right now, putting steaks on a stick, and I think there might be one with your name on it. So thank you, Mr. President, for that.
Any other announcements of Senate interest? Seeing none, Senator Murphy for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until April 20th at 11 a.m.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Senate is now adjourned.
Near the fourth deadline and focused squarely on priority issues. I want to say that as we are putting together a supplemental budget, it is clear to me that nearly half of that budget is in response to the passage of the federal budget bill last July, the thing that the president likes to call the big, beautiful bill. We have talked a lot about HCMC and a facility in crisis. It would not be but for that bill and the already financial impact that they are feeling. And they're not the only hospital that is struggling. There are hospitals that are struggling and are teetering now across the state, particularly in rural hospitals. And you will see in Senator Wickland's Health and Human Services bill an intention on an uncompensated care fund for hospitals in distress. That is because of the action taken by this president and his Republican Congress last July. We know that family budgets are under distress. People are struggling with the cost of food, the cost of energy, now the cost of gas. And we will use the supplemental budget to our best ability to address those issues. As we continue to press the Congress to change the trajectory that they have taken, or we will change theirs. Minnesotans are struggling a lot with this economy and all of the things that have come at us, whether it is tariffs, cuts to health insurance and subsidies, making it impossible for some to be able to afford their health insurance. And now we're starting to see the ripple effect on current systems that we count on. A rise in property taxes, county costs that they can't bear under the mandates coming from the federal government, and of course, real pressure on our healthcare delivery system. We have a real challenge in front of us here in Minnesota, and we're going to use our tools to the best of our ability between now and the end of this short session with a supplemental budget to address some of those needs for the people of Minnesota, to make their life more affordable and to fulfill our commitment to them. And with that, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Does your supplemental, or the discussions rather about supplemental budget, especially related to the One Big Beautiful Bill, include like one-time money for the tech upgrades for counties that need to, deal with these outdated systems, now more requirements on Medicaid and SNAP? And what do you think that figure looks like?
It is an absolute priority for our caucus. I think you'll see that as something held by all four caucuses. We have a lot of work to do there. I think it will happen over successive legislative sessions. We made a down payment on that last year, and we're going to continue, and I think you'll see some spending there this year.
Do you have an idea what that number looks like? I mean, at least for the initial stopgap, and then, like you said, there'll be some subsequent things maybe in future years.
I mean, I think Senator Wickland has a figure somewhere around $50 million in her budget.
For tech?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll wait to see what other chambers do.
How about bonding? This is typically non-budget year bonding bill that you had to make up before. So how high a priority does it land this year?
High, top of the list.
Senator Johnson was not invited. You will need his votes, though, to the event today.
Yeah, I think that when we take up the issue of bonding, Senator Johnson will be included. Yeah.
Is it possible those tech upgrades would be included in a bonding bill?
Right now, I don't think they would fit in a bonding bill. I think we would probably need to make some changes in what we think about in terms of capital investment for that to be included in bonding. So I think you'd see it in an appropriation bill.
Have you guys had any discussions about a school safety plan? I mean, right now there's been kind of competing things, right? The House Republicans had their school safety earlier this week. House Democrats are doing theirs. There are actually some similarities. It's just a matter of like may versus must, a mandate or not a mandate. And then of course the gun issue seems to be entrenched over there and it probably won't pass. But I'm wondering, have you guys had talks between you, Leader Stevenson, and Speaker Dameth about where you can agree on school safety things that maybe don't involve guns?
So the Senate Democrats, and I hope some of our Republican colleagues choose to vote for a package that we bring to the floor. Comprehensive, as we have committed all along, comprehensive like we talked about last fall, a package that includes funding for school safety, for mental health care, and takes on the issue of weapons of war. And once we pass that, then maybe perhaps we can unstick what's stuck over in the House and make some progress for the people of Minnesota, and particularly for the Annunciation community.
Do you know when you would see that?
Y'all do have an education finance bill that was presented yesterday, and it includes a lot of the elements that the House GOP wanted, but there's more funding for school safety than they had, and there's also less funding for private school safety, and there's nothing in there about weapons of war, as you call them. So, I mean, is that the Senate's position, the Senate DFL's position, is the education finance bill that was presented yesterday?
I think you'll see a package come through the Finance Committee in the next week or two that expresses our position and a comprehensive approach to this problem. Stay tuned.
So in other words, maybe what Corin said, plus adding the gun. You're going to vote on a bill that includes both guns and some of the other things that we just talked about.
That is our plan, yes.
And you think that that will be a standalone vote on the floor?
Yes.
Okay.
And like Democrats in the House, do you not want to do a watered down just school safety without addressing weapons? Do you think you have the same feeling on that?
I think it is really important that we take a comprehensive approach. And I hear my colleagues, my Republican colleagues, talking about that as well. But they call comprehensive an approach that talks about school safety and perhaps mental health care, but they don't want to talk about the weapons of war. If we listen to the families who've experienced what they've experienced this past summer, it is important that we address all three, and we're going to address all three. I don't want to leave this session without progress on this topic.
You do have at least one member who has said that I'm talking about Judy Seeberger, who said that she does not support a ban on assault weapons. And so I'm like, where do you go with that?
Members continue to do the work to understand what happened to the families in that community, what happens to families across this country, and the power of an assault weapon that can actually decimate a body. And I think they are considering that. Senator Mohammed has done exquisite work on this piece of legislation, and we will bring it to the floor for a vote.
So you're saying that it's really important, and of course your caucus in the House DFL wants to address guns. But at this point, do you think it's likely that you actually will as a legislature? I mean, can you say realistically with the situation in the House that you will be able to do that at this point?
Yeah, it is always the case, Mary Murphy, that you cannot foretell what happens as things move through this body. It is always, every year, someone will say, that's dead. We don't know that. We don't know that unless we give people an opportunity to consider a whole package. So I always come into these especially hard votes with an expectation and a hope knowing in the end that people are going to cast their vote. That's their responsibility on the floor for the districts that they represent. I'm hopeful.
Will you take it up if you don't have the votes on the floor?
We will take it up.
There was an interesting bill yesterday. Actually, there's a fair amount of Democrats supporting it, the fraud tax, that if you're paying restitution, you're going to pay taxes too. Does leadership at the Senate have a stance on that this session?
Not yet. No.
I heard you talk about, supplemental largely addressing Medicaid and the impacts at the federal level. But I'm wondering how much you see there's only so many dollars to go around. You're not gonna, you don't have, first of all, it's not a budget year, but you also don't have that much on the bottom line.
Yeah.
Or how much are you considering safety at this building, like continuing the screenings, more staffing? I mean, is that something we could expect in a supplemental too?
I think you will see that come from both the House and the Senate as a standalone package that we have to do. We've already obligated funds. We have to pay attention to the deficiency at the Department of Public Safety because of the personnel and the screening devices that we already have in place. But we also know that this is an ongoing cost. It will be a cost and something we need to do for the courts and for the other constitutional officers. I would love it that we could go backwards and undo what happened to us all on June 14th. We can't go backwards. I think we understand it is a different world, perhaps forever, and we have to make sure that people who are coming to this building feel safe to participate.
There's also part of the safety conversation, from like staffing for making sure that you can have the screenings 24/7 here. Is this special security unit that could be dispatched to a lawmaker's home if there's a credible threat? I'm wondering where leadership stands on an idea like that there would be a special unit that wouldn't be 24/7, but if it was Senator Erin Murphy having a threat against her life at her home, that State Patrol would go there.
I think it is an important addition to the tools that we already have. And, I won't ever really want to talk in public about the experience of June 14th and what it meant to call every member that day and ask them to call their own local law enforcement. But and I pray we never do, but if we ever face a situation like that again, I want someone I can call who can help us make sure our members are safe. So it is important to me.
Can you talk a little bit about what I call Senator Champion's sports tax bill, the one that was presented today that would remove a tax that Minneapolis has to pay for U.S. Bank, but also has the PGA funding in it? Can you talk about,
There are a number of provisions in bills that are coming forward that are priorities for members and for members' communities. And every year we end up talking about the assets, the public assets that are, in my case where I live, the Grand Casino Arena, Roy Wilkins Auditorium, the Twin Stadium. These are public assets. And we do have to continue to maintain them. And I am certain Senator Champion is working on that in his proposal. And we will continue to see that and other items like that move forward through this process. I don't know that they will pass this year, but it is important that we are paying attention to our maintenance, our obligation to maintain these public assets.
Can you talk about the PGA funding? I know Senator Russ presented a bill, and then that was placed into Senator Champion's bill. And so it seems to be, at least among some of your leadership, a priority to get the PGA some money here.
I think, it would be, fun for you to talk with Senator Russ about that idea. What we understand, what she will make the case for is a small infusion of public dollars will bring a large return of economic activity, and that's something that she's really interested in. Again, it is a proposal being carried by a member or two. I'm not sure what happens to that in the end of session.
Do you feel pretty confident about, Do you feel pretty confident about an HCMC fix? I know the Senate and House have the sales tax bill, but the House's tax hike would be higher. Just if you could tell us where that stands.
Yeah, I do feel confident about it, but I think it's important to remember that we are in this position now because of that federal budget bill that the President signed on the 4th of July. And this will not be the first thing that we have to address as a result. And our approach in the Minnesota Senate is to think through the statewide asset of HCMC. We all know why it's important. It's where we go if someone in our family is in a tragic accident, experiences a horrific burn, or has a persistent mental illness. and needs ongoing care. It is a critical facility, but part of a larger hospital system in the state that is struggling. So yes, we need to address it. Yes, I believe we will address it, but we have to think about it in context of the hospital delivery system across the state of Minnesota, and the Senate's very focused on that. Could you go back again to that fraud question you asked me earlier?
Yes, so there was a press conference yesterday about taxing, like, people convicted of fraud, they have to give the money back, and then be a tax that would go to Minnesotans.
Yep.
So I don't even know if you're aware of it, or if there's a hearing in the House, but just what do you think of that?
Yeah, it is an issue that I am not yet familiar with. But I think it is important to understand that the legislature, all four chambers, working very hard on this issue. We understand that fraud is a problem. It is not only stealing from the state government, it is stealing services from people and people's confidence in a government they should be proud of. I feel good about the Senate's independent inspector general legislation now moving in the House, as well as efforts to prevent fraud, especially in our human services program, and investing more money in the Attorney General's office so they can pursue prosecutions. We are doing this work for the people of Minnesota, and I am committed for as long as I serve to remain ever vigilant in the oversight that we need to do here in the legislature to make sure this doesn't happen again.
What about the impact of the immigration action? We just have breaking news that an ICE agent has been charged with 2 felonies in Hennepin County, and earlier this week Ramsey County also announced investigation. So there's the law enforcement part, if you can relate to that, but also there's funding and business relief. Where is that in your priority list?
Again, another priority for our caucus. What we experienced here in Minnesota, armed, uninvited, masked, and lawless agents who killed 2 innocent Minnesotans is completely unforgivable. And while this administration, the Trump administration, has used its power to try and block an investigation and protect those people who killed innocent Minnesotans, we're not going to give up on that. I was really proud to see Ramsey County Attorney John Choi pursue charges, and I'm glad to know that it's happening in Hennepin County as well. It is important for us to get as much evidence as possible, and one of the provisions in our Metro Surge, anti-ICE, if you will, package is to make sure that the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is involved in federal investigations in instances where federal agents cause harm to the people of Minnesota. That has been the standard practice, the expected practice, and only under this administration do we see an effort to try and block our BCA from participating. It feels like a cover-up. It acts like a cover-up. It shouldn't happen, and we're not going to walk away from that fight to get justice for the families.
Just wondering if you have a stance on the bill to ban NDA use for local governments.
You know, I think that piece of legislation is a bit of a sleeper, but it's important. Minnesotans should know that we're not signing agreements and keeping secrets from them. That is not what an elected official should do. And unfortunately, the demand for some city electeds to sign NDAs has created a real problem. So I hope that we're able to take that up. I understand the House has problems with it, the House Republicans, I think. But I hope that we're able to take it up and pass it. I want Minnesotans to have confidence in their government. That is a measure that would improve people's confidence in their government.
Motion time for one more.
Do you have a reaction to the U.S. Senate passing the repeal on the
We have
mining
more
ban?
responsibility now than ever to protect the boundary waters here in the state of Minnesota, and we will. Okay. Thank you very much. If I don't see you again, happy deadline day tomorrow. Go eat some meat.
Thanks.